Welcome to the Mindset Advantage podcast with Dr. Tricia Cardner and Elliot Rowe. So Tricia, if you could introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, it's Dr. Tricia Cardner, the author of Positive Poker, and I also have a chapter in Excelling at No Limit Hold'em, the new book that's just out on mental toughness.
My name's Elliot Rowe. I'm a mindset coach and hypnotherapist. I work with poker players and athletes. So Tricia, what news do you have for us this week?
Well, I just got a hold of an interesting study on mindfulness, and the study's not brand new. It actually came out in 2013, but I just read it. And I found it super interesting because they were studying mindfulness to see what kind of benefits people could get out of it. And one of the things that they found, which I think is really interesting for poker players, is that being mindful is actually an effective antidote for mind wandering. And if you've ever found yourself, not being able to concentrate or, even sit quietly for a few minutes, and let's face it, who hasn't, then you're not alone, because in these modern times, we're often just, going so fast, and we always have social media, and we have shorter and shorter attention spans. So in this particular research, they took participants and they either assigned them to a nutrition class or a mindfulness class. And then they did all these tests to see were there any differences. And basically, the ones who went through the mindfulness class, which was just an 8-week class, and it was only like 45 minutes over, each weekly session. So it wasn't a huge thing, but they had better short-term memory. They improved their scores on the GRE, believe it or not, the verbal section, and they experienced a lot less mind wandering. And in fact, they followed up with these people some, and these effects do seem to last. So what the bottom line is, it seems to be that if you want to improve focus, attention, and concentration, mindfulness and or meditation would be the way to go.
I mean, yeah, really good stuff there. And it's certainly a lot of poker players out there following this mindfulness route currently. Do your research and start trying it, because things do change when you put that effort in. So interesting guest this week. We've got Tomáš Molčan coming on from TiltBook. He's the face of TiltBook. It's like a social media website for poker players, like the Facebook of poker, really. So we'll give him a call now. So Tomáš, welcome to the show. If you could just introduce yourself to our listeners.
Yeah, hi, great to be on the show. I'm very excited. It's just the first time I'm doing something like this. I'm Tom, known more as Scarmaker, and I'm from Slovakia, and for the past few years I've been lucky to be somewhat of a professional poker player, and what I do as part-time job is working for TiltBook, which is a poker social media website, which I enjoy working for very much, and it's a very exciting project for me.
And, this is really why we wanted to have you on the show, so you could talk to our listeners about this. For people who don't know, TiltBook is like a Facebook for poker players. So there are 20,000 poker players on there plus at the moment. And it's a place to share your bad beat stories, your graphs, to talk about poker without boring your non-poker fans on Facebook. So if you could tell us about sort of the origination of TiltBook and how you guys got started.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. I mean, when someone asks what is TiltBook, the shortest answer we usually give is like the Facebook for poker players or Twitter for poker players. We kind of have a mix of the two. We have a little bit of both. And actually the original idea, we are now online for 2.5 years. And the original idea of how it started is actually quite interesting. TiltBook's founder, Masuro Naik, is, for those who play Sidengos, is a very well-known person. He's currently a Supernova elite on Poker Stars and a highly successful player. And already by the time back in 2012, when he started TiltBook, he already was playing quite high stakes. And in some months, he had quite a bit of a bad run and a downswing, and he was going through really rough times. And he had yet again this kind of a session when he lost a couple of $1,000 in a couple of hours, and he wasn't feeling very well about it. And sometimes in situations like this, you feel like talking to people about it. You feel like putting it out there to the world, just not bottle it in yourself. And so his idea was that he would put up a Facebook status where he would explain what he's going through and how much he's losing and all that stuff. But he very quickly realized that he cannot really do that, because if he posted something like, "Oh my God, I lost 5K in span of 2 hours," the reaction from his Facebook friends who don't understand really poker would be like, "Oh my God, why are you gambling your money away?" And he would expect this sort of answers, and it wouldn't be much of a support. And that's how he got the idea of creating a social media designed specifically for poker players.
It's so interesting. It almost sounds like a group therapy process for poker players to get out all their bad beats and tilt and all that kind of thing. So do you feel like that's where it's gone as the site is developed?
I think that was more of an original idea. That's why the site is called TiltBook. It was a place where when you're on tilt, when you're going through rough times, you have a place where you can write what's wrong, that you're in a downswing, that things aren't going well, and you would find people there who would understand and support and maybe give some advice. So that was the original idea, and it sort of developed into this big social media where like a lot of different things are going on, and people are visiting the site for all kinds of different reasons. But yeah, this is definitely a huge part of it.
Excellent. And in terms of the community, how are they sort of geographically based, roughly?
Well, me and Tomáš Mazurnaik are Slovakian, so originally to gain some people, we contacted our friends who play poker and sort of stuff. So it was more of a Central European thing, but quite quickly we managed to grow the site to become a really international thing. So we got people really from all around the world. We got plenty of people from UK, from Brazil, from Russia, so from the US, of course, despite they cannot really play online poker there. So it's grown to this international thing where you can meet people and talk to people from all around the world.
Some of the, poker forums have a bad reputation, or I don't know if bad reputation is the right word, but some forums are not, that supportive or friendly. So, but it sounds like yours would be, just a lot different than some of the other forums. Is that really the case?
I think it is. And probably the reason is it's not really a forum. It's sort of a thing where everyone has their own page, everyone has their profile, everyone has their wall where they can put their stuff. And so it's more of I cannot really explain the difference in the sense that why forums are sometimes so negative, but obviously this format somehow works better for when someone is looking for support or stuff. Of course, when someone plays a hand terribly, there are people who will give you a hard time, even on Facebook. TiltBook. but in general, it's really I would say a very positive place. So we usually support each other here and either try to say something nice or give advice and so on. So yeah, it's definitely a more positive place than usual forums.
I think one of the things that probably helps with that is people aren't quite as faceless as they are on a forum. Everyone has their own profile page. Everyone, is saying what games they're playing, who they are, all of that sort of thing. So if you start being horrible to people and rude, quite quickly everyone would know who you are, and quite quickly you're just going to get blocked or unfollowed, aren't you?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. It's a little bit more personal than the regular forums, I would say. It's really like everyone has their own place here and everyone puts some personal information out there. So we kind of do know each other more than on a regular forum where you just put out the screen name or username and that's all we know about the person.
Now, because people are posting up, statuses or stories, things that are going on all the time, are you seeing any trends that are coming up, in the poker world right now?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's a specific trend, but obviously most people are posting about their own results and about feelings and the thoughts about their own results. So that's kind of a main theme, and people do see it as a place where they can, write out what's going on in their heads, in their minds when they play, and you can, post your good graph, post your bad graph, and just put it out there, whatever it is that's troubling you and stuff, and people will try to show some support. And also, it's always nice when you have a nice tournament score and to put it out there and get all the people to congratulate you. It's really a lot. There's going a lot of motivation in that when you see that there are people who care about what you post, and you know that when something happens and you post it out there, it will get some kind of a reaction.
And, thinking about that sort of things, who are some of the players that you have on TiltBook that people may have heard about?
Actually, the kind of a thing I liked about TiltBook is about the most about TiltBook is that you really got there all sorts of people, and we're all equal. You got people from like the micro stake free roll players to really the higher stakes pros. Like for instance, the betting live who you had on the show before, which I loved the interview that done with him. We got like several dozen of super elites. Just recently, Alec Torelli, who is a very known high stakes pro, joined their website. And you got all sorts of, cash game grinders, sit and go grinders, tournament beasts. You have certainly a lot of people you can look up to. And the best thing is that, anyone can join in and see what they are doing, what they are thinking, what they are posting. It's like full access, and that's the greatest thing about it, in my opinion.
Yeah, that is really interesting that you could connect with, maybe much higher stakes players, and you can kind of see,
Exactly.
what they're doing. Do people ever post about the kind of training or work that they're putting into their games? Any kind of goal setting stuff?
Certainly the goals and challenges where people can actually set goals on TiltBook, and people there can see their progress. And in general, people are regularly posting about what they are up to, about to do, what are their plans and goals, and how are they doing, how are they progressing. And some of the people are also posting blogs here and there where they share their thought processes, they share the way they prepare for a session, for instance, and they share how they deal with swings and bad beats and all sort of stuff. So definitely TiltBook is a place where you can get a pretty nice insight into the mind of a professional poker player.
And do you think that's something that's helping those perhaps free roll grinders, lower stakes guys, utilize this information, trying to push their career forward and understand that, perhaps a day of bad variance isn't the end of the world?
Definitely. Anyone can find a lot of inspiration, a lot of motivation. Anyone can come and see and look up to those guys and see what they're doing and tell to themselves, okay, this is very inspirational. I'm going to try to do my best to, be this guy one day. And when some things aren't going that well, you can see like what this guy's doing. You can see his blog posts, his advice, and people can implement that in their games. But also the great thing is that you also, besides these high stakes players, you also get to meet a lot of people who are playing the same stakes you are, the same games you are. So you can share your experiences, share strategy. So really you can connect with all sorts of people, and anyone can boost your game in some way eventually.
What's some of the best advice that you've ever seen written about on TiltBook?
I think what's surprising for many players, or at least was surprising for many grinders, was that a lot of high stakes players wrote blog posts and statuses about a correct diet, for instance, or exercising, or all sorts of work they do outside of the tables. Also mindset training, meditation, how to prepare for a session, how to get a maximum focus. So I think for many people this was a surprise how much work is done outside of the tables, not only strategy wise, analyzing heads, all sorts of stuff, but also keeping a physical condition, mindset, correct mindset, also that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of blog posts written about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we discuss quite a bit on the show. It really does separate the best players in the world from the pretty good players in the world. It's so important. And you play poker as well, Tomáš. What games and things are you playing currently?
I'm primarily a cash game player. I play the NL 100, so the big blind's $1. So it's a pretty small stakes. I'm sort of fortunate that I live in Slovakia because in our country, this is enough to make a somewhat decent living. Like if I was living in the US or somewhere, I wouldn't be able to say that I make my living playing poker, but fortunately the expenses here in my country are much lower, so I can do well. But I'm really trying to, especially recently, to up my game to become a full-time professional.
And what have you used from learning it on TiltBook to improve your own game and mindset?
The thing I said before, that I'm looking more into what I'm doing before and after sessions in terms of preparation, in terms of keeping myself in shape more physically and mentally. So that's one of the things I'm really looking at. And of course, trying to understand the mechanics of the game to, when a bad beat happens, to not go on tilt or try to not think about it too much and really focus on the strategy, on the best move available in every spot, in every decision, and this sort of stuff, because that's what the best players are best at. They are pretty much poker playing machines that are well prepared, they can focus for a long time, and they can put their A game for multiple hours at a time, and they are not affected by bad beats or something that's happening in that sense.
What do you like in terms of your technical or strategic training, books, videos, learning sites? What kind of advice would you give people on that?
To be honest, one of the reasons I'm such a low-stake player is I never really put much time into studying. But I think what works best is getting together with people who are playing similar stakes than you are and analyzing hands together and looking into stuff together. So I think the goal for everyone should be to get a sense of what they're doing, to have a reason for every decision they're making. When someone doesn't know how to deal with certain spot, he should mark that spot and analyze it with his friends and work it out, because really a lot of information is out there in the sense that people got their hand histories and they can look at their own hand histories, and there's so much stuff they can learn and get just by putting in time into looking at their own hand histories. Because what happens quite a lot is that people play a lot of tables or something and they have limited time to make decisions, and they cannot process the spot thoroughly. And sometimes they look at it in a very shallow way. And when a similar spot comes up, they really don't know what to do. They have a very vague sense of what's the right thing, but the spot isn't really broken down until you look at it after the session and analyze it thoroughly.
And how do we get you to do that study now?
That's one of the reasons I say it's good together with some friends. So you can push each other, so you can, they set a specific time when people get together. Because when it's your own responsibility, people tend to get a bit lazy. People say, I'll do that later, or, I'll rather do something else now. What I say quite often is that poker is awesome in the sense that it gives you so much freedom. But at the same time, this freedom can be really a curse in a sense that you have no one who is, requiring you to put the work in, to put the study, to analyze things. There's no sort of required discipline from you. You're on your own, and unless you do this stuff, you force yourself to do the work, no one will do that for you.
What kind of goals do you have for both your own poker game and for TiltBook going forward?
Well, as for TiltBook, the goal is to become the largest poker website out there eventually, to be the place to be when it comes to socializing with poker players online. And as for my poker goals, it's really to be able to have it as a comfortable living, to not be forced to do any other job in the future, which is a very vague goal. And it's might be one of the reasons why I sometimes have problems putting the volume in, because I don't have a specific goals. So I'm quite often don't really know what exactly I'm chasing.
Interesting. I think we've had a good bit of insight right there for everybody listening. You have to have something that you are chasing, and it does need to be, something pretty specific.
Yeah, it should be something that's pushing you. I think you already done a show about that where really, and I think you mentioned a study in one of the podcasts when it's really important to have a very short-term goals as well as long-term goals. Because when you set a goal that is too long-term, it kind of, on the daily basis, it's so far out there that people lack the motivation to chase it. But when you set specific goals day by day or week by week, you have the exact numbers you have to put in or the exact amount of hands you have to play. It's really more reachable and it pushes you towards the goal.
So you know what you need to do. We just need to get you to do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on it, but it's a slow process.
All work in progress. And sort of with all these players on TiltBook putting on all of this information, what are some of the biggest stories you've seen on TiltBook? So perhaps the biggest successes or most extreme things that people are talking about. What really stands out to you over the years of doing this?
Well, in the last couple of months, the player who really stands out on TiltBook is Charlie Cattle, also known as 2077. I'm sure a lot of people heard about this guy who recently won one of the EPT high rollers, as far as I know, for over €1 million. So that's definitely like the biggest story. And we had several people who scored really big when it comes to the tournament scene. And of course, we had supernova elites who are putting just immense amounts of volume, and these people are just incredible. Of course, when it comes to seeing and goes, it's hard to pick a certain achievement. It's really more of a, it's a long-term thing. But you can see these people constantly putting huge amounts of volume and crushing it day by day and getting huge profits, and it's really very inspirational.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Charlie Carroll, who you mentioned, is, he's like 22 years old, and it feels like he came out of nowhere, even though I know he really didn't. Like, I know he's been working on his game for a few years because I met him over the summer. We talked about it, but it just feels like he came out of nowhere.
Yeah, like until someone makes it really big in some of the televised tournaments or hits a Sunday million or something, the person can crush the games for years and no one ever knows him. This is especially true for these kind of players like sit and go grinders and cash game grinders, but there's no like break point. Like, for tournaments, you just win a huge tournament and you're now all over the news, all over the place. But these cash game grinders who have like 6-figure profits month after month, you really never hear about those.
Unless you go on TiltBook, right? And then you hear about
it. Definitely.
Yeah, it really, I guess it does give people the access into exactly what's going on in the whole poker world, doesn't it?
Yeah, you can meet really all sorts of people. And you never know, you click that news feed page and you never know like what's going to come up, like who's won what, who's on a sick downswing. You've had an interesting story lately. You never know like what you're gonna find there, which is one of the things I love about TiltBook.
Sounds like a really amazing group that, I'm gonna go ahead and sign up. And I think, Elliot, you're already signed up on there, aren't you?
I've been there a while. Yeah,
I'm behind the times.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why TiltBook is so great. That along with grinders and players from micro stakes to high stakes, you also get to find out about all sorts of different people that are working in the poker industry. You get coaches, you get training sites, people have representatives from, people offering rakeback deals, and also you got interesting people like Elliot who do mindset coaching. Maybe, plenty of people didn't even know something like mindset coaching existed before they found out about Elliot on TiltBook. So you really get along with the community, you also get to meet or find out about all sorts of sites and people who are doing interesting work in poker. And you can use their services and find out about them.
And how easy is it for people to join?
Well, the joining, it takes literally minutes to join. What's a little bit of a slow process is that it works just like the Twitter in the sense of gaining and following people. So like when you join, no one knows about you yet. You kind of you have to make a name for yourself a little bit by following some other people so they know that you're there, or putting out some posts, joining some groups and saying, hey, I'm here. And so you don't get immediate attention. But if you're active, and we got all sorts of groups where people can join in and share their thoughts and stories on all kinds of different subjects, you can get known very quickly. And that's also one of my jobs is to check out the new people, and if they post something interesting, to kind of make sure enough people see it if the person's worth it.
Okay, well, I'm going to sign up, and hopefully a lot of our listeners will go ahead and follow me, and that way I won't just be
on your own.
Yeah.
Sure. It's no harm in that. That's definitely it's a plus EV decision for sure.
Excellent. Well, Tomáš, thank you so much for coming on to the show today and talking about all of this. It's great for us to be able to share something like this with our listeners because, it's genuinely a huge community of poker players out there that a lot of people just will have never heard of.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's all free. It's all out there. All you need is to, put out some personal information on your own site.
Excellent. And it's www.tiltbook.com, isn't it?
Indeed.
Excellent.
So I'm looking forward to seeing more of your listeners on the site, as well as Trisha.
I'm there. I'm going to sign up.
Great.
Awesome. Well, as I say, thank you so much for coming on, and we shall talk to you soon. We'll see you on TiltBook.
Yep, likewise.
Cheers, man. Bye. So it's great to have Tomáš on the show talking through that, wasn't it?
It really was. And, at first when you said we were going to have him on, I was kind of like, well, I don't really know that much about this TiltBook. And I was kind of thinking, why would I even want to join this? But now that I've heard him talk about it, I'm looking forward to joining up.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big poker community, and it's more personal than the forums, which I think, as we were discussing there, removes some of the sort of the spite and hate that people are quite happy to do when they're a little bit less visible on the forums, because, your personal profile is up. It's a bit harder to be rude when everyone knows who you are.
Yeah. And, I also thought that it was really interesting how, people are posting their goals and their challenges. And I just feel like you can get a really good sense if you kind of look around on it for a while of where the current poker mindset or the poker field or trends, whatever you want to call it, where they're going. It just seems like that would be, a really good place to get an idea of what people are studying and what they're working on.
Yeah, and how to stay ahead, or at least at pace with everything else that's going on in the industry.
Exactly. I mean, I felt like, he talked about all the mindset stuff and doing the work off the table, which of course we talk about every week, but he did highlight, and I thought this was really important, especially for people coming up in the game, that you have to have a reason for every decision you're making. And I really liked, that focus. And maybe if you don't know why you're doing something, you could go on TiltBook and you could post the hand and get some feedback that may be higher quality than what you get on a forum.
It's got to be worth a try.
Got to be.
So, Trisha, where can people find out about you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Dr. Trisha Cardner, or you can go to my website, www.drtrishacardner.com.
Excellent. And I'm on pokermindcoach.com. We look forward to talking to you guys next time.
See you guys.